Test one. Good evening, guys, again. Let's give them another round of applause for the film. So again, I'm Dennis Baker, LifeRaft Program Director, and I'll let these ladies introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Michelle Danner. I'm the director and one of the producers of Hello Herman.
And my name is Sandra Valde-Hansen, and I was the cinematographer on Hello Herman.
Great job.
So, as we all know, it takes an army to produce a film. So there's people here that's names were on those screens, so I'll let Michelle take care of that.
So I know we have, first and foremost, Jerry Cattell, who's was our first executive producer that signed on. Thank you, Jerry. And is Jake here? He said he was going to be here. No, is anybody else here that is with the movie? Nope. Okay.
All right, so we're going to jump right in. We got a few moments. So three things we're going to cover for you guys is producing, directing, and then obviously cinematography. So the first question I wanted to share with you is you produced 3 films already. You want to share what those 3 films are?
Yes, I did a movie, Dos Corazones, that was directed by Larry Moss. And I did a feature film called How to Go Out on a Date in Queens with Jason Alexander and Rob Estes, who's in this movie, and Christine Dunford, who's in this movie, and Brian Drillinger, who's in this movie, and then Isai Morales, Ron Perlman, Kimberly Wilson Paisley, Allison Eastwood, a great cast. And then this movie.
Excellent. So I'm curious, as a producer, what did you learn from film 1 that helped you for film 2, and then film 2 that's helped you for this film?
Well, you always learn something, and I'm a great believer in lessons, so I always keep a list on my iPad. And so what did I learn? Well, from the first movie, I learned that, you know, you need to be better prepared, more, and really clear with people. We ended up spending an enormous amount of money on catering. The catering on the first movie was the most unbelievable catering you've ever seen. And me and my assistant congratulated ourselves on being so smart because we found this amazing catering until the bill came. And then we're like, no. And we had completely misunderstood everything. So it was too good to be true. And then in the second movie, I learned that I needed a DP that I could communicate better with. The big joke on the second movie was, let's do it in 1 take or less. So thankfully, I met Sandra for the third movie. And in Hello Herman, the lessons were more technical lessons because I was really happy with the cast. I mean, I really got a good cast of actors. So it wasn't like looking at the screen and going, God, I wish that person hadn't played that part. It was, you know, and I didn't feel that with How to Go Out on a Date in Queens either. You know, the little things like the drives, like back up your movie, you know, several places, not just one place. And have a good photography. Somebody takes good photography on set, because then you look at the pictures. Because there's never time when you're on set, you're rushed. So you have to make the time to take good pictures, because then after it's all over, you go, I don't have really pictures that I love. Or the behind the scenes footage that you never have time to shoot. Those things. Crew etiquette. You know, one person got hurt because people are in places they're not supposed to be in. You know, that kind of, just more like little nitty-picky, you know, technical things. But ultimately, I mean, we had a great shoot with Hello Herman. We shot it in 19 days of principal photography, yeah. Yeah, we were clean and mean. Yeah, totally.
I love that, clean and mean. So let's talk a little bit about financing, because I assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, the budgets maybe increased a little bit more as you learned more and learned all these rules, and were able to save money here or re-spend your money in other places. What did you learn in that front about who to reach out to or help to get the money you felt you needed to make the film that you wanted?
Okay, well, this is what I think. When you're doing like a little indie movie like we tried to do, you know, I mean, Not even your friends and family want to give you money. Like, nobody wants to give it to you. So basically, I mean, nobody wants to give it to you. So, you know, you can, in the Indiegogo's, I mean, they're great, and the Kickstarters, but people, I think, are a little bit, you know, burned. And, you know, so if you really want money, I think you have to come up with a plan, a really good plan, so you can look at somebody in the eyes and say, and, you know, and sometimes you just have to force them to write that check a little bit, right, Jerry? You just have to force. Jerry's like, yeah, don't talk to me ever again. So, you know, and it's not easy. I don't think it's easy. You have to have a very, very good plan of return. But it's an interesting time right now for actors / filmmakers because of the internet. We know that. And because of technology. And because you can have a great imagination, a great story that you can make come to life for so little. So you can do it on a shoestring. And we're in LA, out of all places, where everybody wants to make a movie. You know, the cab driver wants to make a movie. So you can enlist so many people to say, hey, let's make a movie. Let's come together. Let's form a collective. Let's form a community. Let's make it happen. And you can have so many people donate things to you. I've seen movies that look so amazing, and they were done on such a little tiny budget because people called in many, many favors.
So I was talking backstage with them, and I was talking about producers, and they have 18 producers listed on IMDb. And what was your first response, Michelle?
We don't. I think that, you know, that scene from Glengarry Glen Ross when they go the leads, you know, it's because you listened. You know, I just feel for every conversation that we had, somebody went on IMDb and gave themselves a producer credit, honestly.
So then the question becomes, what for you garners a producer credit? Was it financing, or was it that they had to work some angle? What was it for you that deemed someone a producer?
Well, the executive producer is the person that gives you money. And I had one producer that gave us a little bit of money, and they didn't get an executive producer credit. And the producers are the people that actually do the work, that are on set, that are in the trenches. And then you have co-producer, and everybody wants the producer credit, but I feel very strongly that it should only be the people that have rolled up their sleeves and are there every day. And then you have to do the favors, you know, the co-producers, the associate producers. I mean, for instance, my assistant at the time, Rebecca Morgan, got an associate producer credit because she helped me cast the movie. Somebody who helped do the casting, did all of the contracts, got an associate producer credit. Somebody had brought me some talent to the table, got a co-producer credit. So you give those favors out.
Before we move into directing cinematography, one last question here is, any tips, nuggets for our new producers, for our actors who are looking to produce? You're like, if I'd have known this my first film, I would have wanted someone to tell me this. Well,
I think you've heard it from so many people, but I think that it's obviously the better prepared you are. It's all about the prep. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all the preparation. So if you don't know what that prep entails, then you have to find out what that is. You have to make that list. What is it going to take? Because then it goes really fast. And once, you know, the faucet, like they say, you know, you open the faucet of the money and it starts to go, and the train is rolling, which is exciting because when the train starts to roll, everybody wants to get on the train. So that's what's exciting. But once the train rolled, you know, you're constantly catching your breath. You don't have time. And so you have to really, really be prepared for that moment. Right?
All the time, yeah.
Oh, yeah, because then it becomes a roller coaster after that. And you can't stop it.
No
You
time
can't
to
stop the roller coaster. Everybody goes and everybody asks you a million questions. And you know, if you, and I think actors should direct. I mean, you know, if it's good. I always say it's only a vanity production if it's bad, right? If it sucks, it's vanity. But if it's good, it's not. So, you know, work really hard, be really prepared, assemble a really good team of people that you feel you can talk to, like really good people with good energy. You know, the moment you feel like somebody has bad energy, no, because, you know, one bad apple can kind of mess up the whole thing. Yeah.
So, and this is a question for both of you guys, maybe a favorite memory from set, something that you're like, I'm going to always remember this moment.
Wow, that's hard because I had so many, actually. I don't know, Michelle, you go first.
Okay, well, you know, we found this great facility at Fred Sinelli's. I'm actually happy right now because it's closed down. So we won't see those locations in other movies, which is great. But we've seen it in plenty of places on TV. You know, a lot of people shot there. So they say it on the internet, and I think it's true that the facility is haunted. So me and Rebecca were in the house of the warden one day, and it was raining, and all of a sudden, and I don't believe in that stuff, just so you know. I believe in astrology, but I don't believe in, you know, that. But all of a sudden, we hear, "Mommy." And me and Rebecca are like, "Did you hear that?" And that was not, and then we brought it up to the people, the guards, you know, and they said it was like maybe a cat screeching. But that didn't sound like a cat. That sounded like somebody that went, "Mommy." And then other things happened, things dropped, you know, and in the trailer there was banging, you know, all that stuff that you see on whatever those movies are. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that story. Oh gosh, if I would have learned that story, I may not have gone to work the next day. I don't know. So my kind of favorite is more of a general thing. One of the things that Michelle and I spoke about, one of the biggest challenges of the movie was you basically have two people in different rooms. And how do we make it different, or how do we make it interesting? And we had many conversations, and obviously you've seen the film. But what was so amazing for me was being able to be in a room with Norman Reedus and Garrett Backstrom. And it's just me and them and my camera assistant and sometimes the dolly grip, and be behind the camera and see that performance unfold. Those particular interviews, I mean, you really saw how much work you did with the both of them. And I mean, I feel like, in all honesty, we didn't even need to move the camera. We could have just put it on them and people would have been totally enthralled. But I felt that the camera movement did, you know, made it a little snappy and fun. But that was really the most amazing thing for me, because as a cinematographer, I have to say I'm very lucky to be kind of the first person to actually, because my eye is on the eyepiece. I operate most of the things that I do because I want to feel so connected with the characters. I want to be also maybe even a character myself. And so I'm kind of the first person watching this movie before any one of you. And it's one of the best parts of my job. So that's my favorite part.
So this ties into the casting, which is, as our SAG-AFTRA audience likes to always know, about the casting process. You don't have a casting director on IMDb, only a casting coordinator, because you casted the film. So talk a little bit about that process. Did you have people already in mind? Did you know who to go to? Kind of talk about the audition process. What was that like?
Well, I did have some people in mind, and you know, so I cast some people that I love to work with because I know they're wonderful actors and we have a shorthand. And then there were a lot of people in the movie that I did not know, and we went through an audition process. So in terms of finding Herman, we saw about 100 young kids ranging from 13 to 20. And Garrett came in one day, and I knew from the moment he walked in that I was going to cast him. And then we asked how old he was, and he was 15 and a half. And my line producer turned to me and said, absolutely, were you there? Absolutely not. He said, there's no fucking way it's not going to happen. Can I say, no, I can't say that. And I went, shut up. So, you know, and he started to read, and I gave him some adjustments. And then I went, how many times did you read the script? And he said, 3 times. And he was the only person out of 100 people that read the script 3 times. So he came to get a job. He came to book a movie. He walked in the door to get that part. And then it was hard because he had to take hours on end of something on the internet so he could be legal, because I couldn't even get him if he was legal at 16. He had to become a legal 18 because he's in a lot of scenes, as you saw. So it had to be able to work. But he worked really hard, and that's how that came about. And then I had another great actors came, and I was just really lucky. I mean, obviously, I can tell, I love actors, and so when somebody comes in, and sometimes it's hard, because I know that if I cast that actor, it'll bring me that quality. and that'll be good too. But if I cast that actor, it'll be something different. And, you know, and it's not so easy because I love actors. That's why it's not so easy. And so it's almost like you want to make 5 movies with 5 different casts. That actually could be a really interesting experiment. Wouldn't that be interesting? You make the same script, with 5 different casts. You let them improv a little bit so they put their stamp on it. I think that'd be a great experiment.
There you go. Your next movie right here, right now. So you were director, producer, actor. How did you manage those hats for those 19 days that you were shooting? What was that like? Talk about that.
Well, I was very well prepared with Sandra. We sat in my house till late at night and talked about the shots. And I'm not a real technical person. I don't even really know too much how to operate the internet. I mean, I know a little bit, but I'm not like, I don't. It was great. Sandra just, I told her emotionally what I thought the scenes should feel like. I also had this idea of I wanted the tables to become smaller and smaller as the characters became closer and closer together. And I did come up with some shots that I'm proud of. I feel like I graduated from my first movie in the sense that, I'm proud of my shot of putting the camera under the table, under the glass table. But Sandra and I had such a shorthand, and she did everything so beautifully, and she moved the camera so beautifully. As a matter of fact, several people said, I've always heard how beautiful the cinematography, is in the movie. And, but anyway, in terms of my acting, I had staged this. This was written 13 years ago. It started as a novella by John Buffalo Mailer, the youngest son of Norman Mailer. And I read it, and I thought it would be an interesting movie because I was very drawn to the social issues in the movie. And so we staged it at Edgemar, the Edgemar Center for the Art, my theater. We staged it with 3-camera, multimedia, and the audience was the protagonist. That's really the protagonist of the story is us, our society. And at the time, John played Lax, Norman Reedus' part, and Sawyer Spielberg played Herman. And then he became too tall when it came time to do the movie, and I really wanted to cast somebody that looked like Garrett. And I played the mom. And the reason why I played the mom was because I wanted to campaign for her point of view, because I know how much I judge that mother. Because I always say, you know what? If your child is building pipe bombs under the bed, you actually need to know that as a parent. So I judge that mother. But I think that not everything is so black and white, Not everything is, when you say, it can never happen to me. I recently had an accident happen to one of my dogs, and I would have never thought it could happen to me because I took care of that dog like you would not believe. And so you can never say it's never going to happen to me. And so I wanted to campaign for her point of view, and I know I have kids, and I know I'm like, I have a warm energy, and I'm nurturing. So I didn't want to cast I wanted to cast a person that you go, there's no way this could be Herman's mom. And that's why I wanted to play. But I also had played it on stage, so that when it came time to shoot the scene, first of all, it was raining that day. It was horrible. And I was like, my hair was just falling. It was just a nightmare. And and the person who I really trust, Brian Drillinger, my co-producer, was in bed with his back had given out, so he couldn't even come to give me notes, nothing. So I was like, but I had Christine Dunford, who's wonderful. She plays the senator. She's a wonderful actress and teacher. And she gave me notes, and Ed Shaw was there. And then I started to get too many notes from too many people. I said, shut up, and let me just do it, because at some point you just have to do it. And that was it. That was the story.
Great. So you hinted at this relationship. I hear many times with directors saying that don't know technical terms. You have to kind of describe something emotionally, and then the cinematographer has to kind of interpret that. So as you guys were working together, 1, how did you guys connect? Because this is the first film you worked on, so that's 1. And 2, how did that language come to be for you, for both of you?
Well, as far as how we connected, actually, I was recommended by the first assistant director,
Ted Campbell. We asked him, who do you know that's great? That's always a good question to ask.
And I had worked a few films with him prior to that, so he recommended me, so I thank him. And then I guess we had an interview, and I met.
And I met with a lot of DPs. I met with a lot of some really good DPs, some hugely award-winning DPs that wanted to do the movie. So I had many interviews. But when I met Sandra, I just felt, a wonderful connection. I just felt a great connection, and that's what you're looking for. You really ultimately, that's what the movie's about, right? You're looking to connect with somebody. And we connected, and I like a really nice, easy working environment. I like no drama, just everything harmonious, If I could bring flowers and classical music on the set the whole time, we'd be there. But no, it was just like, just very easy, yeah.
I mean, one of my jobs, I believe, and very important, particularly in indie filmmaking, because the time frame is so small, but I feel like this should happen in even bigger studio movies, is to get really inside the head of the director. And obviously that's meeting with them, talking with them about shots, but it's also just kind of hanging out with them. I mean, Michelle was saying, we got together about a month. Like at night, I would obviously have stuff to do during the day. She had stuff to do during the day, but then we would meet at her house and we would sit and we would talk shots. But then we'd also kind of talk about life in general. We'd share some food, some drinks, and really kind of get to know each other. And that helped me because I was able to get to know her. I was able to get to understand what her aesthetic was. So I didn't really need her to come and say, okay, Sandra, this scene, we want to shoot this Steadicam, and we want to shoot it on a 25 millimeter lens, and I want you to light it contrasty. I don't need to know you don't need to tell that to me. You just need to say to me, Sandra, this scene is about his emotional transition as he's walking to the school. This is what's happening in his head. And as a cinematographer, I can translate that. And then and then what we did was she would tell me what the emotional beats were in the scene, and then I would say, oh, Michelle, what about this shot? How about we do this shot, or how about we do that shot? And she'd say, oh, that's great. Or, well, what do we, and it was just kind of a back and forth. And so we did that for about a month. And so when we were actually on set, because I knew there was going to be times that her headspace was going to be in the performance of the mother, that I had to step up to plate. Because she's not going to want me to ask her, Michelle, where do you think the camera's going to be? No, we did that we planned ahead. And we knew exactly what was going to happen that day. And the one great thing about planning ahead, too, is, as most of you all know, you have a plan, and sometimes something happens, and it changes. And then you scramble. But at least you have a plan. And so then you can take that plan and say, okay, well, so-and-so actor was late, so-and-so actor's not showing up. Let's see what else we can do. Right. So, it's really, like she said, all about planning and preparing.
And then being flexible. I think that's a huge word, is to just be flexible. And, Sandra was so wonderful. We had shot, 16 hours or whatever. We're in the gym. The gym was gruesome because it was a lot of people. And I really want my pom-poms to go up, I wanted that ceiling up there of the gym. And it was past everything. The crew was wrapping things up. Everybody was going home. And, Sandra was like, she stayed past the past to get the pom-poms going up. And that was cool. Thank you.
And we got them.
Sandra, how can actors make your job easier, and how can they make your job harder?
One of the things, actually, and every DP is different. I feel like, honestly, to be a DP, you have to be a bit of a chameleon. But I actually come from a documentary background. That's where I got most of my training. And when I work as a director of photography, the most important thing, besides camera and lighting, is the actor. Because without the actor, then what's the point of the camera and the lighting, honestly? So when I do this, I want to be able to create a space in where the actor can feel absolutely comfortable in the space. So I try to keep a little bit less equipment around. I try to, it's not really about backlights. And it depends on the movie, but for the most part, I want you to feel comfortable. And so saying that, I wish actors would talk more to cinematographers. I would rather have someone come in and talk to me and interact with me, because I feel like there's a trust that needs to be established between a cinematographer and an actor. And it's almost like a friendship, you know, because sometimes it's just going to be you and me in the room. Because sometimes, like somebody like Michelle, she may be over at the monitor. We might be in a small bathroom, you know, shooting. And I remember, I think we did one scene with Norman Reedus in a bathroom,
Yeah.
and it was just me and Norman Reedus. And, I mean, we had a dialogue. Obviously, Michelle is the director, I'm not going to tell him what to do, but he trusted me as well. So there's kind of a triumvirate between the director, the actor, and the cinematographer, that we all should establish a trust, and don't be afraid to talk to me as the DP. So I guess that's it.
Yeah, that's great. From both of you, what are some of those, you talked about this, those unplanned things that happen on set? You're like, okay, this came out of left field, now we have to do this. Or maybe some things where you're like, okay, that shot wasn't the shot we planned, but this is the shot we got, or whatever that may be, some things that happen on set.
I mean, the big thing for me was the fact that Norman was good for him and good for us, that he booked Lady Gaga's music video, Judas, right in the middle of it. And so we had to completely scramble our eggs, and it was a real mess. And so that scene, that emotional scene at the end in the cell, we ended up shooting it at 4 o'clock in the morning. And Garrett, you know, wonderful Garrett, tried to really keep himself awake and energized with some Energizer drinks and a little too much energy. You know, when I was really trying to get a certain moment from him, I was really trying to get that moment, which I ended up not getting. I got a good moment, you know, I tried everything, but I didn't get the moment that I wanted. And I tried, and I spent a lot of time in that cell with the editor. I spent a lot of time in there trying to make it work. And it would have been okay, but it wasn't good enough for me. It wasn't. So I called him to my house, and I showed him the scene, and I said, you know what, we're going to go in there, and it's going to be a pain in the ass, but we're going to reshoot this. We're going to reshoot this section of this scene because it's not working. It's not that it's not working. It was like B, but it was an A. And you saw it, and now you know that it's working. That moment needed to work when he said, I'm sorry. I mean, that's, you know, it needed to work. So that was the big thing that happened. It was like, I will never again, that was my big lesson, get bamboozled into shooting anything that's super important at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's it. Yeah.
Wow, I feel like when you do independence, there's always some sort of curveball that comes to you, so you always have to kind of scramble. But I think, from what I remember, we had to do that scene where it was a flashback scene in Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
And we were originally going to shoot it in one area. And then I think the night before, and we were kind of concerned about lighting or timing, and we were, I think right before we left for the day, we found this, not an alley, but a tunnel with a red light.
Scary.
And I think we all said, why don't we do it here? And it was already lit. And then we ended up shooting that scene, which I think is, I mean, so much better than what I actually had planned in mind. The original lighting setup I had planned. So I thought that was pretty serendipitous.
Nice. We're going to end on this last thought. You get to answer this twice, Michelle, one as a producer, one as a director, and then obviously Sandra. I wish actors would, or I wish actors would not. However you want to finish that.
I wish actors would come to audition more prepared. And I would wish that actors would release the outcome of not getting the part, because it has so much not to do with one's talent. And then?
Or we can keep it there, or if you have a I wish actors would not as well. Sandra's still thinking, so. Maybe is there anything that sounds like a director, is there a producer point of view on that? Anything from a producer's point of view?
Producer's point of view. I don't know, I'm more of a director than a producer. I just do the producing because I have to. But if I didn't have to, you know, definitely. I could let that go very easily. But yeah, I mean, more as a director.
Okay.
I guess it kind of comes back to what we just talked about. I mean, I wish actors would talk to me more, and then I wish actors wouldn't be afraid of me.
That's great. I think that's a great place to end it. Give him a hand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, guys.